All right, I'm gonna break this up into a few broad categories to make this a little bit more digestible. Sometimes we get that motivation to start decluttering, or you're just in the beginning phase of like wanting to simplify your life, and decluttering is usually where most people start with that, but you just don't know where to start. So hopefully this list of 50 things to declutter that you can declutter now, that most of us have in our homes, is a good starting place for you if you're just getting started, or if you just got that motivation, that mood strikes you to declutter. Hopefully this list will give you some ideas. So let's get started. All right, starting in the kitchen. Number one, old freezer food, whether that's food that you've made in the past that you froze, maybe you forgot about, or sometimes like you'll find that bag of mixed berries that's been in there for so long that it's all like clumped together into one big block of ice and you can't even make use of it anymore. Anything in the freezer that is old and you haven't used, you have no intention of using, feel free to get rid of that. Number two, expired pantry items. So if you go through your pantry, I'm sure you'll find things that you haven't even remembered were in there, or things you haven't used, you don't have any intention of using. If it's not expired and you don't plan on using it, you can always donate the food items, but if it's expired, anything in there that's expired, feel free to declutter it. Number three, extra pots and pans. So if you actually think about it, you probably don't use all of the pots and pans that you have in your kitchen. You have a few favorites, I'm sure, and you only have like so many burners on a stove that you could use at once. So generally we don't use all of our pots and pans that we have, and sometimes they come in like a big set and you don't end up using all of them anyway. So maybe just keeping the ones that you use regularly, and if you're afraid to let go of them initially, maybe just put them aside out of the kitchen, box them up somewhere. The ones that you don't use, you'll see that you probably aren't going to miss them or use them or need them. So after that maybe trial period of just removing them from the kitchen, feel free to declutter those extra pots and pans. Number four, Tupperware that either doesn't have matching lids or the lids just suck. I've had so many pieces of Tupperware that the lids just don't close well, or they're hard to close, or whatever the case may be, they just don't function well. So if you have any pieces of Tupperware like that, let them go. Number five, empty jars that you've maybe hung on to because you hope that you're going to use them for something, but you just don't, and you end up collecting all of these jars. Get rid of all those jars. Number six, kitchen gadgets or little appliances that you're not using. And sometimes these things can slowly start to creep up on us and we accumulate more and more, but we don't end up using a lot of them, especially if they're very specific to what they do. Like, by all means, if you use it, keep it, like your lemon squeezer or ice cream scoop or whatever you might have that you actually use. But if you have something lying around your kitchen that you got one time thinking you would use it and you just don't, feel free to let that go. Next one is fridge magnets. Now, if you have some that are maybe sentimental because you got them like on vacation or something and you want to hang on to them, that's a little bit different. But if you've got just like a whole collection of stuff on the fridge, magnets and things that are just adding to the clutter, the visual clutter in your kitchen, make sure you just let those go. I don't even like to keep stuff on my fridge. What I'll do is if my kids draw something or give me some artwork to put on the fridge, I'll use like a magnet tile to just stick it up for the day. And then they know by the end of the day, I take it down, and we kind of just do that daily, but I don't keep magnets on the fridge regularly. Another kitchen item you can let go of is any reusable bags you have. Not all of them, because obviously the purpose of the reusable bag is to reuse them, but I find that sometimes you forget to bring them with you to the store, you end up purchasing more reusable bags, and it's like this vicious cycle of endless reusable bags coming into your home. So maybe just pick like some of your favorites, a handful of favorites that you use regularly, and just get rid of the rest, or use the rest to like put donations in, take them to donations, or whatever else you can like repurpose them for, but you don't need so many reusable bags. Another one in the kitchen is extra mugs, and I know this is like a sensitive topic for some people who love their mugs, and that's fine if that's something that you love, but honestly, I think mugs take up a lot of space in the kitchen. You don't need so many of them, and you pick a few of your favorites and they're really special and you can use them all the time rather than feeling guilty about not using all of your mugs because you have so many. So declutter those extra mugs. Lastly, in the kitchen, go through your spices. Get rid of any spices that you just haven't used. Maybe you purchased one for a recipe, you didn't like it, or it's like something really rare that you never ever are going to use again. Don't feel like you have to hang on to it just because you have it and now it's in your kitchen. If you're not going to use it, you don't like it, let it go. All right, on to the bedroom / closet, mostly closet. Number 11 is any shoes you have that either hurt or they're just not comfortable, so you never wear them. And I think you know what I'm talking about. You have those shoes that you think you're gonna wear them. Maybe they're more dressier shoes like heels or things like that. you just don't end up wearing them because you know how much they hurt your feet, and they just sit there and they make you feel guilty because you're not wearing them. So feel free to declutter those. Along with that would be maybe in your closet, like stained clothing. So if you have items that you've tried to get stains out, they haven't come out, and now you feel bad because you don't want to get rid of that clothing item, but it's sitting there and you're not wearing it because it's stained, let that go. Also, any socks you have that either have holes in them or they don't have a match and they just keep ending up going through the laundry hoping that a match will turn up. If there's no match or they've got holes, declutter those socks. Any extra bedding. So I think this is a little bit personal how much bedding people want to keep, whether you have like one extra set of sheets or multiple. I myself don't keep an extra set of sheets or pillowcases for our bedding. I just wash it and dry it and put it back on in the same day. That's my preference. But if you've got more than one extra set, maybe think about going through it and decluttering any of those extras, because sometimes it's just excessive bedding that just sits in our linen closet anyway. Extra hangers in your closet, if you've got a lot of those, maybe just keep a few extras and get rid of the rest, because sometimes all those extra hangers might just make you think, hey, maybe I need some more clothes, and we don't want to do that. So get rid of those extra hangers. Number 16, any jewelry. Go through your jewelry box or drawer, wherever you keep your jewelry, and declutter anything that you're just not wearing, or maybe something that you used to wear that was you in the past, but it's not who you are now. It's not something you wear now. Let it go. Lastly, for the closet category, I would say any clothing that maybe you purchased like as an impulse. Maybe you went shopping, you weren't intending to purchase any clothing, but you saw something that looked really cute, you bought it, but you don't really actually like it, or it doesn't fit really well and you just never wear it, but you feel like you have to keep it because you did purchase it and you never returned it, and so it's sitting there. Maybe it's okay to let that go now. Okay, moving on to like general living space items that you can declutter. Think about maybe any picture frames that you just haven't used to hang up any pictures, or any artwork that you haven't hung up. If you're not going to hang it up, or you're not going to use those picture frames, don't just keep them lying around because you think you will. You would have done it by now. So either do it right now or declutter that artwork or those picture frames. Number 19, if you have any DVDs or even any VHS tapes going way back here, and you don't have a DVD player, or you're just not using them because you're streaming all of your movies on Netflix or something else like that, declutter the DVDs and the VHS. Number 20 and 21 would be like extra throw pillows and extra throw blankets. The blankets, you might be surprised, you probably have more than you think you do. I always end up finding blankets somewhere in the house, and there's always more than I think there is. So maybe just pick like a few of your favorite cozy blankets, and you don't need a ton of throw pillows. It just gets cluttered and crowded on the couch anyway, so declutter any of those extras. Next would be vases. I don't really have any. If I do get flowers, I use like a water picture jar that I have to put them on the table or on the counter somewhere. I don't keep or have a lot of vases in the house, but I know some people who get lots of flowers, they sometimes come with a vase and then you just hang on to it, and that can accumulate pretty quickly. So maybe go through those and see one or two of your favorites, hang on to those, and declutter the rest. All right, so any knickknacks that you have lying around, or like little trinkets that just end up collecting dust, they sit on shelves, they take up a lot of space, and they provide like a lot of visual clutter in a space. If it's not something that's really special or sentimental, and it's just something that you have lying around, like a little trinket thing that's just sitting on a shelf somewhere, it doesn't really bring you any value or any joy, declutter that. Also, if you have any reference books, any old textbooks from school or cookbooks, things that you reference that you're supposed to reference that you don't actually reference, declutter those books. Unless it's something that you do reference regularly, because most of us now, we Google everything that we need to know. We don't really run to a book to reference something. So if you have those type of books lying around on your bookshelf, or cookbooks in your kitchen that you're just never referencing, declutter those. Okay, on to the bathroom. Now, a bit of a disclaimer here. A lot of these things, if you can use them up first before you declutter them, use them up. But some of the things on this list, if it's stuff you're just not using, then let it go. So number 25 is like hair things, elastics, clips, headbands that you don't use regularly or you never use. You can feel free to declutter those. We all have a few of our favorite like scrunchies or clips or whatever that we use on a daily basis. The rest of them just kind of sit around not being used, so we can declutter those. Next is hair products you don't use. So like I said, if you can use it up, but if it's something that you don't use because you hate the smell, or it just doesn't work for your hair, you bought it, you thought it was gonna work, it doesn't, any of those types of products, let them go. Next would be makeup products that you don't use. So if it's something, again, that you purchased that you thought you were gonna like, you don't, it's just something that sits in your makeup drawer or basket that you just don't use, feel free to declutter that, because if you're not using it now, you're not going to use it. Number 28, extra tweezers. Somehow I find like I always end up with extra tweezers and I don't know how, but we really don't need more than one pair of tweezers. So if you have extras of those lying around, you can declutter those, as well as any extra nail clippers. Again, these are things that just start to somehow accumulate, like multiples of them, and I don't know how, because we really don't need multiples of these types of things. So extra nail clippers can go. Number 30, if you've got like those old towels, whether it's like hand towels or bath towels or face washcloths that are just getting so old and like crunchy, they're just not soft anymore, maybe donate those to like an animal shelter or somewhere that can use those towels, and buy yourself some new towels that don't hurt your face or your body when you're using them. Next one is to maybe go through your bathroom and check for any expired products. So whether it's makeup products or anything else you can find, if it's expired, time to let that go. And lastly, for the bathroom, go through and see how many brushes, like hairbrushes and combs you have, because you probably have more than you need or use. So if you've got some extras, maybe just hang on to one brush, one comb, and let any other ones go. All right, on to the kids category. If you don't have kids, you can bypass this category, but for those of you who have children, here are some things you can declutter in that area. Any broken toys. So if you have kids that have toys with missing pieces, so they're not using it, or things that have just broken and are not fixable, declutter those. Also, any toys that make noise. Okay, hear me out. Even if they are in good condition, one of the best things I did was declutter all of my kids' toys that make obnoxious sounds and noises, and it was the best thing I could have done. So I'm giving you permission, if you've got a lot of those toys in your house, declutter them. Next for kids would be any clothes that they've outgrown that you're probably not going to want to hang on to for any other children. Sometimes if you keep hand-me-downs, you keep it because it will fit another child, but if it's really stained or worn out, you're probably not going to end up using it by the time the next child can fit into it anyway. So feel free to declutter that. Only keep the clothing that is actually in good condition. The other thing is clothes that they just don't wear for whatever reason. Maybe they just really don't like it, or it's not comfortable. Sometimes we have a harder time parting with some of their clothes than they do, because we either maybe they got it as a gift, it's a really nice outfit, or we purchased something that we thought they were going to love and wear and they just don't for whatever reason. It's a hard thing to do, to let those clothes go, but if they're not wearing it, they're not going to wear it. So maybe just donate it to another child who can make use of it. Next would be any of your kids' books that they just don't like or don't read. I know with my own kids, once in a while I'll look through the bookshelf, I'm like, not one of my kids has pulled this book out to read in I don't even know how long. They clearly don't like it, they don't care for it. You can declutter any of those books. And lastly, like any of your kids' little knickknacks and trinkets that they have, I give each of my kids like a special little box to keep some of their special items in, but that's the container for them to keep those things. If they start to accumulate too much stuff, and kids always have these like little treasures that they love, like whatever it might be, and so if it outgrows the box, then they have to choose to part with some of it. So go through that with your kids maybe and see about how many of their little trinkets and knickknacks you can declutter with them. Next would be like a paper category, I guess you could say. So any old receipts. Obviously there's certain receipts you want to hang on to for a certain amount of time for whatever reason, but go through some of your receipts that maybe you've hung on to for a very long time that you don't need anymore. Declutter any of those. Instruction manuals. Get rid of your instruction manuals. Chances are you're never going to reference them, because if you need the instructions for something that you have in your home, you're probably going to Google it anyway. Books that you aren't reading. I don't know if this is technically like a paper category, but books are paper, so let's throw it in there anyway. If you have books that you've read already that you have no intention of rereading, or any books that have been on your bookshelf for a really long time that you just haven't gotten around to reading and you don't see yourself reading in the near future, declutter those books. Okay, kids' drawings. I guess I could have put this in the kid category, but it's also paper. My kids draw so many pictures in a day. I can't even keep track of the amount of papers that I accumulate of just kids' drawings. And so this is an area that it's okay to declutter those papers. There will be a select few here and there that are really special, or maybe they want to hang up on the fridge for a little bit before you let it go. But don't feel bad about decluttering and recycling a lot of those drawings and papers, because you can't physically keep it all. And lastly in this category, excess stationery. So if you're like me and you're someone who loves accumulating like notebooks and pens and highlighters and markers and all those things, that can pile up really quickly, and then you don't even end up using all of it. It just is really cute and pretty stationery that you just want to have, but you don't actually use it. go through some of that and declutter any extras, any extra pens, notebooks, papers, things that you're just not using. Okay, in the last category, let's call this like a miscellaneous category. Feel free to declutter any gifts that you've been given that you're only holding on to because they were gifts. This is a hard thing for a lot of people to declutter because it comes with a lot of guilt. But honestly, once the gift has been given, it's up to you now what you want to do with that. So don't feel like you have to hang on to something because it was given to you if it's not something that you love or you're not using. So any of those types of items, it's okay to let them go. Also, maybe go through and see what you have in your home that's broken, that you haven't fixed yet and you really don't have any intention of fixing, or it's just not fixable, but you hang on to it because you think, oh, maybe I can figure this out or fix it or do something with it. Chances are if you haven't by now, you're not going to, so you can declutter those items. Okay, the next one is any boxes that you've kept from things like cell phones, laptops, mostly technology boxes because they come in these really nice boxes most of the time and we keep them. I don't personally, so my husband does. He likes to keep his boxes for things because he sometimes resells items and he likes to have the box if he resells something. That's fine. I don't necessarily agree with that mentality. I think I can still sell it without the box if I'm going to. I don't want to store and manage a whole bunch of empty extra boxes. So for me personally, I would declutter those. Okay, next would be any cords that you have that you just don't know what they're for, or you've got like 6 or 7 of the same type of cord. Maybe keep one extra and declutter the rest. Another one is expired medicine. Go through your medicine because that's not something that we use daily, at least in our home. We hardly use a lot of our medicine, and so sometimes it sits there and it gets expired and we haven't even realized that. So go through your medicine and see whatever's expired and you can declutter that. Next would be any excessive holiday decor. It's definitely okay to have holiday decor. I love my Christmas decorations, but it was so nice this past Christmas to not have like an excessive amount of it because it was so easy to put stuff up and take stuff down before and after the season, and it's just not worth it to me to have the headache of all of the stuff having to come out and then all of the takedown. I'd rather just keep it simple and minimal, have a few favorite pieces around the holidays, and just get rid of all the extra stuff that you're just not using. Lastly, old hobby supplies or materials. So chances are, if it's an old hobby, if it's not something you're currently doing, you're not going to. And if it's something that's just sitting around collecting dust or making you feel bad because you're like, why aren't I doing this hobby anymore? But obviously it's just not a part of your life right now. You're in a season of life, or maybe you just don't have the time for it or the energy for it, and so it's just sitting there not being used. Let that stuff go, and maybe you'll make space in your life for a new hobby, or maybe you'll pick it up again down the road and you can always revisit purchasing new supplies. But chances are, if you're not using those things now because it's not something you're doing, you're not going to, so feel free to declutter those items. So I hope that list provided you with some inspiration if you are just starting the decluttering process, or if you're just in that mood to declutter. Go through this list, go through your house, have some fun with it, and you will feel so much better once your home is clear of all of this extra clutter. Thank you so much for watching this video and spending this time with me. I will see you in my next video.